Jake Morrison sat in the far corner of the massive war room, his back against the cold metal wall. The chair was uncomfortable and placed where most beings would barely notice him. Around the huge circular table, alien commanders argued and planned with voices that echoed off the high ceiling. Jake held his tablet in his lap and typed notes quietly while the others spoke. Admiral Krextal stood nearly 8 feet tall with blue skin that shimmered under the bright lights. His 4 arms moved as he talked, pointing at the holographic star map that floated above the table. The Zephyrian spoke in his deep voice about fleet positions and weapon ranges. His species had ruled space for over 2,000 years, and everyone knew it. When Krextal talked, others listened. "Our battle cruisers will form the primary assault wave," Krextal said, his lower arms resting on the table while his upper arms gestured at the display. "Each ship carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Void Swarm will not expect our geometric formation patterns." Queen Zaraneth clicked her sharp mandibles in agreement. The insectoid creature was half the size of Krextal, but twice as dangerous. Her black eyes reflected the hologram's light as she studied the battle plans. The Hive Queen controlled millions of warrior drones across dozens of worlds. Her voice sounded like clicking metal when she spoke. "My swarms will match their numbers," Zaraneth said. "For every bioship they bring, I can field 3 drones. We have faced organic enemies before. Numbers always win," the Nexari delegate hummed a low musical note that translated as strong approval. The crystalline being looked like living glass shaped into a rough humanoid form. Light passed through its transparent body in beautiful patterns. The Nexari had the most advanced energy weapons in known space. Their crystal ships could channel power that would vaporize entire asteroid fields. Jake typed steadily on his tablet, recording everything he heard. The aliens barely looked at him. To them, he was just the human representative required by old treaties. Earth had only 12 warships compared to the thousands that each major species commanded. The humans were new to space, and everyone treated them like children who needed to watch and learn. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat beside Jake, also taking notes. She was young and eager. Fresh from Earth's Naval Academy, Amy whispered status reports about human colony evacuations and defensive preparations. Jake nodded but kept his attention on the alien discussions. "The swarm's bioships regenerate damage during battle," Krextal continued. "But our plasma cannons burn hot enough to prevent healing. We will target their breeding vessels first." Jake made careful notes about Zephyrian plasma technology. The aliens spoke freely about weapon specifications, shield frequencies, and tactical doctrines. They shared military secrets as if Jake was not even in the room. His human uniform marked him as harmless, barely worth a second glance. Zaraneth spread her wing cases and clicked rapidly. "Hive intelligence shows the swarm travels in cluster formations. They protect breeding ships in the center while fighters form outer shells. Standard pack hunting behavior." More valuable information flowed into Jake's tablet. He had studied alien military theory for 15 years, ever since first contact. While other humans focused on trade agreements and cultural exchanges, Jake had devoted himself to understanding how different species fought wars. The Naval War College on Earth had called his work theoretical and largely useless. Now theory was becoming deadly reality. The Nexari delegate pulsed with soft light and sang a complex harmony that the translation system converted to speech. "Crystal lattice formations will channel our energy weapons efficiently. Overlapping fields will prevent swarm penetration. Our shields have never failed against biological attackers." Jake typed the shield frequency ranges that the Nexari mentioned casually, the crystalline being assumed that primitive humans could not understand advanced energy physics. Jake had 2 degrees in xenotechnology and had written classified papers on alien defensive systems. The aliens did not know this because they had never bothered to ask. "Human observer," Krextal said suddenly, his 4 eyes focusing on Jake for the first time. Your species will position its vessels in the asteroid field at grid reference 77 Alpha. You can observe the battle from a safe distance and learn proper military tactics. Jake looked up from his tablet and nodded respectfully. Thank you, Admiral. We appreciate the opportunity to witness superior strategies in action. Amy shifted uncomfortably beside him, but Jake's expression remained calm and humble. The aliens smiled or made equivalent expressions of satisfaction. The quiet human was properly respectful and knew his place. Perhaps after this victory, Zaraneth clicked, humans will understand why some species rule while others serve. Jake typed her exact words while maintaining his neutral expression. Around the table, alien commanders returned to their planning, dismissing the humans from their thoughts. They discussed classified weapons, secret bases, and strategic weaknesses with complete openness. Jake recorded every detail while appearing to be nothing more than a dutiful note-taker. Hours passed as the meeting continued. Jake's tablet filled with intelligence that Earth's military planners could only dream of accessing. The aliens never realized that the quiet observer in the corner was systematically cataloging their capabilities, their blind spots, and their fatal assumptions about human inferiority. When the meeting finally ended, Jake closed his tablet and stood quietly. Amy gathered her materials while the alien commanders filed out, still ignoring the humans. Jake waited until the room was empty before allowing himself a small smile. The real war was about to begin, and it would not go as anyone expected. Captain Lisa Webb stood on the bridge of the human destroyer Defiant, watching the sensor displays with growing concern. The readings showed empty space where the void swarm was supposed to arrive in 2 days. Her communications officer turned from his station with worried eyes. "Captain, we're getting reports from the outer sensor networks," he said. "The swarm dropped out of hyperspace 3 days early. They're already past the warning beacons." Lisa felt her stomach drop, but kept her voice steady. "How many ships?" "Initial count shows over 2 million biovessels, ma'am. The numbers keep climbing as more emerge from hyperspace." On the main screen, long-range cameras began transmitting images of the approaching enemy. The void swarm ships looked like massive insects made of living metal and flesh. They moved through space in writhing clouds, each vessel pulsing with organic light. Some were small as fighters, while others stretched for miles. All of them looked hungry. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency alarms blared as commanders rushed to their positions. Admiral Krextall's forearms moved rapidly over his control panels, calling up fleet positions and deployment orders. His geometric formations had worked against every enemy for 1,000 years. He would not let biological creatures change that. "Record, all Zephyrian battle groups to assault positions," Krextall commanded. "Deploy in diamond formation. Keep cruisers at the front with destroyers protecting the flanks." Queen Zaraneth's compound eyes reflected the red warning lights as her own forces moved into position. Millions of drone ships launched from Hive, carriers forming dense swarms that moved like flocks of metal birds. Her strategy was simple and proven. When facing large numbers, bring larger numbers. The Nexari delegate's crystalline body rang like a bell as it transmitted orders to the crystal ships. The alien vessels arranged themselves in complex geometric patterns designed to focus their energy weapons into devastating beams. Light danced between the ships as they charged their systems. Jake Morrison received the early warning aboard his flagship while reviewing classified files in his quarters. Amy Carter burst through the door, without knocking, her face pale with shock. "Sir, the swarm arrived early. Captain Webb is requesting immediate orders." Jake closed his tablet and stood calmly. "Signal all human vessels to proceed to the asteroid field as planned. Maintain radio silence once we reach position." "But, sir, shouldn't we coordinate with the main fleet?" Jake looked at Amy with serious eyes. "Lieutenant, our orders are very specific. We observe and stay hidden until I give the word. On Earth, Evacuation ships lifted off from every major colony carrying civilians to safe systems far from the battle zone. Dr. Helen Brooks worked frantically in her laboratory, analyzing biosamples from previous swarm encounters. Her research had revealed crucial details about swarm biology that the other species had overlooked. The communication network uses bioneural frequencies, she told her assistant over the video link. They share memories and adapt to threats in real time. Traditional weapons will only work until they evolve countermeasures. Her findings were transmitted directly to Jake Morrison's fleet using encrypted human channels. The alien species had their own xenobiology experts, but they dismissed human research as primitive and incomplete. Colonel Ryan Davis gathered the captains of Earth's 12 warships for a final briefing. The meeting took place on the human carrier Intrepid, using secure channels that alien intelligence networks could not monitor. "You've all received your sealed orders," Davis said. "Do not open them until Commander Morrison gives the signal. Until then, we follow standard observation protocols. Chief Petty Officer Pete Johnson supervised the final modifications to human ship systems. Work crews installed strange devices that combined human engineering with stolen alien technology. The modifications were crude but functional, designed for one specific purpose that only Jake Morrison fully understood. "Keep those emission baffles tight," Pete told his teams. "If the aliens detect what we're really carrying, this whole plan falls apart." The Galactic Council's massive fleets took their positions as the Void Swarm approached. Thousands of alien warships formed battle lines that stretched across entire star systems. Their combined firepower could crack planets, but Jake Morrison knew from his careful observations that firepower alone would not win this fight. Lisa Webb guided the Defiant through the asteroid field, using the floating rocks to hide her ship's energy signature. The other human vessels followed, disappearing among the asteroids like submarines hiding in an underwater canyon. From space, the 12 ships looked like insignificant specks among the drifting stones. The first swarm scouts reached the outer defense perimeters and immediately began probing alien defenses. Small bioships darted between Zephyrian cruisers, testing weapon ranges and shield frequencies. Hive drones engaged in skirmishes that sent valuable data back to the main swarm. "First contact in 6 hours," Admiral Krextall announced to the Joint Command Channel. "All species maintain formation discipline. We will show these creatures the price of challenging civilized space." Jake Morrison listened to the communications while hidden among the asteroids. His tablet contained detailed analysis of every alien weapon system, every tactical doctrine, and every strategic weakness he had observed during months of planning sessions. The aliens had shared their secrets freely, never imagining that the quiet human observer was preparing for this exact moment. The Void Swarm's main force emerged from hyperspace like a living nightmare. Bioships in numbers beyond counting filled the space between stars. They moved with purpose and intelligence, forming attack patterns that seemed chaotic but followed deep biological instincts. Amy Carter watched the sensor readings with growing fear. "Sir, there are so many of them. How can 12 ships make any difference?" Jake Morrison smiled quietly as he opened his sealed orders. "Lieutenant, you're about to learn that sometimes the smallest force can change everything. Signal all ships to prepare for Operation Silent Strike." The first wave of Void Swarm bioships crashed into Admiral Krextall's geometric formation like a living tsunami. Zephyrian plasma cannons lit up space with brilliant blue fire, cutting through the organic vessels with surgical precision. For the first few minutes, it looked like the aliens' superior technology would carry the day. Captain Susan Miller watched from the human destroyer Defiant as explosions bloomed across the battlefield. The Zephyrian diamond formation held firm, their heavy cruisers pouring devastating fire into the swarm ranks. Bioships burst like overripe fruit under the plasma barrage, spilling acidic fluids into the vacuum. Their shields are holding, Amy Carter reported from her station. Zephyrian defensive systems are performing as expected. Jake Morrison nodded but kept his eyes on the tactical display. Watch the swarm response patterns. Notice how they're adapting. Even as Zephyrian weapons cut down the first attackers, new bioships emerged from the main swarm with different characteristics. Their hulls showed strange growths and modifications. Within minutes, Jake could see that these new vessels were surviving plasma hits that had destroyed their predecessors. Admiral Krextal noticed the change too. His confident voice carried a hint of concern as he spoke over the command channel. Increase plasma temperature by 20%. Target the larger bioships first. The blue plasma beams grew brighter and hotter, but the swarm continued adapting. Bioships began secreting a metallic coating that deflected some of the energy. Others developed thick shells that absorbed heat without taking critical damage. The Zephyrian formation started taking casualties as adapted swarm vessels broke through their defensive fire. Queen Zaraneth launched her counterattack with typical hive efficiency. Millions of drone ships swarmed toward the bio-vessels like angry metal hornets. The hive strategy was simple but effective. Overwhelm the enemy with superior numbers and coordination. Engage all targets, Zaraneth clicked over the comm. Show them that quantity has a quality all its own. The drone swarms engaged the swarm bioships in a massive melee that turned space into a writhing ball of combat. For every drone destroyed, 2 more took its place. Hive manufacturing ships worked frantically to replace losses, their production lines running at maximum capacity. But the Void Swarm had its own surprises. Some bioships began emitting signals that confused Hive drone navigation systems. The perfectly coordinated swarms suddenly turned chaotic as drones lost contact with their queen's commands. Other bioships released clouds of organic particles that clogged drone sensors and weapon systems. Jake Morrison made careful notes as he watched Hive coordination break down. The swarm is jamming their bio-neural links. Zaraneth's drones are becoming blind and deaf. Susan Miller shook her head in amazement. How are they adapting so fast? They're not just adapting, Jake replied quietly. They're learning from every attack. Each destroyed bioship shares its experiences with the collective before it dies. The Nexari crystal ships entered the battle with weapons that turned night into day. Focused energy beams cut through space like swords of pure light, slicing bioships in half with mathematical precision. The crystal formations worked perfectly, channeling power between ships to create devastating attacks. For a brief moment, it looked like Nexari technology might turn the tide. Their energy weapons were too pure and focused for the swarm to easily counter. Bioships exploded in brilliant flashes as crystal beams found their targets. Then the swarm revealed another adaptation. New bioships appeared with mirror-like surfaces that reflected the energy beams back at their sources. Nexari crystal ships began exploding as their own weapons were turned against them. The perfect geometric formations shattered as ships broke ranks to avoid reflected fire. Impossible, the Nexari delegate sang in harmonics of disbelief. Our energy cannot be reflected by organic matter. But the swarm had grown specialized bioships with crystalline organs harvested from destroyed Nexari vessels. They had literally incorporated alien technology into their own biology, creating living mirrors that could deflect any energy weapon. Jake Morrison watched the 3 major alien fleets struggle against an enemy that learned and adapted faster than they could develop new tactics. Thousands of ships were already lost, and the main swarm had barely engaged. "Sir," Amy Carter whispered, "shouldn't we help them?" Jake's voice was cold and calculating. "Not yet. We need to see all of the swarm's capabilities before we act." The battle became a nightmare of adaptation and counter-adaptation. Every time an alien species found an effective tactic, the swarm evolved a response within minutes. Bioships developed armor against plasma, jamming against hive coordination, and reflection against energy weapons. Admiral Krextal's diamond formation crumbled as bioships learned to target specific points in Zephyrian shield grids. Queen Zaraneth's swarms turned into confused mobs as bioneural jamming intensified. Nexari crystal ships fled in disorder as their own weapons became deadly hazards. Captain Lisa Webb's voice crackled over the human command channel. "Jake, they're getting slaughtered out there. The aliens are losing this fight." Jake Morrison opened his sealed orders and smiled grimly. "Good. Now we know exactly what we're dealing with. All ships prepare for Phase 1 implementation, EFU." Engineer Kate Torres had been waiting for this moment. The modifications to human ships were finally ready to activate. Unlike the aliens, humans had not relied on superior technology or overwhelming force. They had prepared for an enemy that could adapt to anything. "Stealth systems online," Kate reported. "EMP charges armed and ready. Biofrequency jammers standing. Bye." The Void Swarm pressed its advantage as alien resistance crumbled. Bioships began consuming the wreckage of destroyed vessels, literally eating the technology and incorporating useful elements into new ship designs. The enemy was not just winning the battle, it was growing stronger with every victory. Dr. Helen Brooks transmitted the final piece of intelligence that Jake needed. "The swarm's central coordination node is moving with the main fleet. It's the largest bioship, probably over 50 miles long. If we can disrupt its signals, the whole collective will lose coherence." Jake Morrison studied the tactical display showing the swarm's central command vessel. It was heavily protected by thousands of smaller bioships, but it was also the key to everything. The aliens had been fighting symptoms while the real target remained untouched. "All human vessels," Jake commanded, "prepare to leave the asteroid field. We're going hunting." Jake Morrison broke radio silence for the first time since the battle began. His transmission cut across all alien command frequencies with crystal clarity, reaching the scattered survivors of the 3 major fleets. "All Allied vessels, this is Commander Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. I am transmitting emergency coordinates for immediate withdrawal to Safety Zone Alpha 7. Admiral Krextal's voice came back filled with confusion and anger. "Human, what are you doing? Your species has no authority to issue tactical commands." Jake's response was calm and professional. "Admiral, your current position is about to be overrun by a swarm pincer movement. Check your long-range sensors at bearing 27 Mark 8. Krextal's 4 arms moved frantically over his controls. His sensor officer's voice cracked with fear as the readings came in. "Sir, massive bioship formation approaching from our blind spot. They'll be in firing range in 3 minutes. Follow the human coordinates," Krextal ordered his remaining ships. "All Zephyrian vessels, emergency withdrawal." Commander Alex Hunt of the human destroyer Vigilant powered up systems that had been hidden since the battle started. His ships' true capabilities emerged as stealth fields dropped and weapon ports opened. The modifications that Pete Johnson's teams had installed were finally revealed. "Firing EMP pulse," Alex announced calmly. A wave of electromagnetic energy erupted from the Vigilant, washing over a cluster of swarm bioships. The pulse was specifically calibrated to disrupt bio-neural networks without affecting standard ship electronics. Jake had designed the frequency based on months of studying how alien weapons interacted with swarm biology. The effect was immediate and devastating. Bioships that had been coordinating perfectly suddenly lost all communication with each other. They drifted helplessly as their nervous systems overloaded, unable to adapt because they could no longer share information. Queen Zaraneth's voice clicked with desperate hope over the comm channel. "How did you do that? Our electromagnetic weapons had no effect on them." Jake Morrison's reply came as Captain Diana Ross led a rescue operation using technology that made human ships invisible to swarm biosensors. The stealth system combined human submarine tactics with observations Jake had made about how Nexari crystal signatures confused swarm tracking systems. "Your Majesty, you were using the wrong frequencies. The swarm's bio-neural networks operate on specific wavelengths that most species ignore because they seem too primitive. Diana's ship, the Intrepid, materialized next to a crippled hive carrier just as swarm bioships moved in for the kill. Human weapons fired with precision, targeting specific bio-neural nodes that Jake had identified through careful analysis of swarm anatomy. The rescued hive drones immediately came back online as their queen's signal reached them again. Zaraneth's mandibles clicked in amazement. "Impossible! How did primitive humans develop such advanced stealth technology?" Jake's voice carried a hint of amusement. "We didn't develop anything advanced, Your Majesty. We just combined techniques that your species abandoned long ago in favor of more sophisticated approaches." Lieutenant Rick Stone coordinated the evacuation of alien survivors to coordinates that Jake had prepared weeks earlier. The asteroid field had been converted into a hidden base using principles of camouflage and misdirection that no alien species had considered worth developing. The base operated using simple but effective methods. Heat signatures were dispersed through the asteroid field using thermal pipes. Energy emissions were scattered by reflective surfaces placed throughout the rocks. Communication arrays were hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids using techniques borrowed from human mining operations. Admiral Krextal's surviving ships reached the hidden base and found themselves in a complex that had been operating under alien noses for days. His four eyes widened as he realized the implications. "You have been planning this," Krextal said over a private channel to Jake. "How long have you known about our tactical weaknesses?" Jake Morrison stood in the command center that his crews had carved out of the largest asteroid. Banks of monitors showed the ongoing battle while human technicians worked alongside rescued alien officers. The cooperation was awkward, but effective. "Admiral, I have been studying alien military doctrine since first contact 15 years ago. Your species shared your tactical methods freely because you assumed humans were too primitive to understand them. The Nexari delegate's crystalline form pulsed with confused harmonics as it examined human technology. These modifications to your ships utilize our crystal technology, hive bioengineering, and Zephyrian energy systems. No single species has ever successfully integrated all three." Jake nodded respectfully to the alien. "That's correct. Each of your species developed incredible specializations, but you also developed blind spots. You stopped looking at techniques that seemed beneath your advanced capabilities." More human ships emerged from hidden positions throughout the asteroid field, revealing the true size of Jake's operation. Each vessel had been modified with hybrid technology that combined the best elements of all three alien civilizations while avoiding their individual weaknesses. Dr. Helen Brooks appeared on the main screen from her laboratory on Earth. "Commander. Morrison, I'm transmitting the final biofrequency analysis. The swarm's central command node is vulnerable to a specific resonance pattern, but only if you can get close enough." Queen Zaraneth studied the data with growing excitement. "This information is incredibly detailed. How did your scientists obtain biosamples from the swarm's command vessel?" Helen's image smiled grimly. "We didn't need samples, Your Majesty. Commander Morrison provided us with complete recordings of every swarm encounter from your own battle reports. We analyzed the data that your own sensors collected but never properly examined. The full scope of Jake Morrison's intelligence operation became clear to the alien commanders. The quiet human observer had not just been taking notes during their planning sessions. He had been conducting a comprehensive analysis of alien capabilities, limitations, and strategic assumptions. "You studied us," Admiral Krextal said slowly. "While we planned to fight the swarm, you were planning to exploit our weaknesses." Jake Morrison's expression remained calm and professional. "I studied everyone, Admiral. Your species, the hive, the Nexari, and the swarm. I needed to understand all the players before I could develop an effective strategy." Captain Susan Miller appeared on the communications screen from the Defiant. "Sir, swarm forces are regrouping around their command vessel." They've stopped pursuing the alien survivors, and they're forming a defensive formation. Jake Morrison smiled for the first time since the battle began. Excellent. They think we're going to attack them using conventional tactics. They have no idea what humans do when conventional tactics fail. He turned to address the alien commanders who were gathering around his command station. Gentlemen and ladies, you are about to witness why humans survived on a death world for millions of years. We're going to do something that no advanced civilization would ever consider. Amy Carter looked up from her station with curious eyes. Sir, what exactly are we going to do? Jake Morrison's smile became predatory. Lieutenant, we're going to fight dirty. Jake Morrison stood before the main tactical display as his 12 ships prepared to engage an enemy that had just destroyed thousands of alien vessels. The swarm's massive command ship sat in the center of a defensive formation that stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction. All human vessels, this is Morrison. Execute Operation Dirty Pool. Remember, we're not here to fight fair. Captain Alex Hunt was the first to demonstrate what humans meant by fighting dirty. The Vigilant approached a cluster of swarm bioships, using a flight pattern that made no sense to any military doctrine. Instead of direct assault or tactical maneuvering, Alex flew his ship like a drunk pilot having engine trouble. The bioships moved to intercept what appeared to be a crippled vessel. They had adapted to expect coordinated attacks, geometric formations, and energy weapons. They had no preparation for a ship that seemed to be flying randomly while broadcasting distress signals. Alex waited until the bioships were close enough to touch his hull before activating the real surprise. Hidden compartments opened along the Vigilant's sides, releasing clouds of metal spheres that looked like space debris. The spheres contained modified hive bioweapons that Dr. Helen Brooks had designed specifically to target swarm neural networks. The bioweapons spread through the attacking vessels like a virus, causing their nervous systems to shut down one by one. But unlike the weapons that alien species had tried, these were designed to be undetectable until they reached critical mass within each ship. Bioweapon deployment successful, Alex reported. Target cluster is going dark. Sergeant Linda Adams led the first human boarding party using techniques that horrified the watching alien commanders. Instead of trying to capture swarm vessels intact, Linda's team used modified mining charges to blow holes in bioship hulls and then fought their way inside wearing environmental suits. We're not here to be polite, Linda told her Marines as they cut through living ship corridors with plasma torches. These things want to eat us, so we eat them first. The boarding party carried weapons that combined human chemical knowledge with alien technology. Acid grenades dissolved swarm bioarmor, while sonic disruptors overloaded their sensory organs. Most importantly, the weapons were designed to cause maximum pain and confusion rather than quick death. Queen Zaraneth watched the tactical display with growing horror. Those humans are torturing the bioships. This is not civilized warfare. Jake. Morrison's voice was cold as winter. Your Majesty, the swarm doesn't understand civilized warfare. They only understand survival of the fittest. We're showing them that humans are fitter. Captain Terry Johnson demonstrated the psychological warfare tactics that made even hardened alien veterans uncomfortable. His ship, the Liberty, began broadcasting signals that were specifically designed to cause fear and confusion in bio-neural networks. The broadcasts combined human psychological research with Dr. Brooks's analysis of swarm communication methods. Instead of trying to jam their signals, Terry was inserting false information that made the bioships believe they were under attack by their own kind. Swarm vessels are firing on each other, Terry reported with satisfaction. They think their neighbors are infected with some kind of disease. The alien commanders watched in stunned silence as human tactics systematically destroyed swarm coordination. Each attack was designed not just to damage enemy ships, but to spread confusion and terror through their collective consciousness. Admiral Krextal's 4 arms trembled as he spoke. This is madness. You are deliberately causing chaos instead of seeking decisive victory. Jake Morrison turned to face the Zephyrian commander. Admiral, your species has fought wars for honor and glory for 2,000 years. Humans fought wars for survival on a planet that was actively trying to kill us. We learned that victory is more important than honor. Dr. Helen Brooks transmitted new intelligence from her laboratory as the battle continued. The swarm's central command node is showing signs of stress. Their collective consciousness is being overwhelmed by contradictory information from damaged vessels. Captain Diana Ross led the next phase of the assault, using stealth technology that allowed human ships to appear and disappear like ghosts. Her attacks targeted specific bioneural relay nodes that Jake had identified as critical communication points. Hit-and-run tactics, Diana reported, as her ship vanished after destroying another relay. The swarm can adapt to sustained attacks, but they can't adapt to something they can't predict or track. The human strategy became clear as more ships joined the assault. Instead of engaging in direct combat, they were systematically dismantling the swarm's ability to function as a collective intelligence. Each attack was designed to isolate bioships from their network. Lieutenant Rick Stone coordinated the most disturbing aspect of human tactics. His team was capturing damaged bioships and using them to broadcast false signals back to the swarm command vessel. The psychological warfare was turning the swarm's own communication network against them. They're starting to retreat, Rick reported. The outer defensive formations are pulling back toward the command ship. Jake Morrison smiled grimly as he watched the tactical display. Good. Fear is spreading through their network faster than their adaptive responses can compensate. They've never faced an enemy that deliberately tries to drive them insane. The Nexari delegate's crystalline form flickered with distressed harmonics. Your tactics are causing widespread psychological trauma to the bioships. Many of them appear to be suffering mental breakdowns. Jake nodded calmly. That's the idea. The swarm's greatest strength is their collective intelligence. We're turning it into their greatest weakness by feeding it poison. Sergeant Adams and her boarding parties had begun the most horrifying phase of human tactics. Instead of destroying captured bioships, they were reprogramming them using techniques borrowed from human computer warfare. The converted vessels began attacking their former allies while broadcasting human-controlled signals. We've turned 12 bioships into our agents, Linda reported. They're spreading our false information directly into the swarm network. Queen Zaraneth's mandibles clicked in horror. You have corrupted them! Those ships are no longer part of the swarm, but they are not truly yours either. Jake Morrison's expression was merciless. Exactly, Your Majesty. We've created confusion within their ranks. The swarm can't tell which signals to trust anymore. Alien commanders watched as human tactics achieved what their advanced weapons could not. The mighty Void Swarm was beginning to collapse not from superior firepower, but from psychological warfare that attacked their fundamental nature as a collective intelligence. Captain Susan Miller's voice crackled over the comm from the Defiant. Sir, the command vessel is showing massive neural activity spikes. Dr. Brooks was right about the resonance frequency. The central node is becoming unstable. Jake Morrison prepared for the final phase of his plan. All ships, prepare for the killing stroke. We're going to do something that will give these bioships nightmares for whatever passes as the rest of their lives. Amy Carter looked up from her station with concerned eyes. Sir, what could be worse than what we've already done? Jake Morrison's smile was the most frightening thing the alien commanders had ever seen. Lieutenant, we're going to make them think they're dying alone. Jake Morrison initiated the final assault as the Void Swarm's collective intelligence began to fragment under the sustained psychological attack. The massive command vessel that had seemed invincible hours earlier now pulsed with erratic bioneural activity as confusion spread through its network. All ships, execute final solution protocol, Jake commanded. Target the command vessel with everything we've learned. Captain Sandra Clark led the decisive strike from her position aboard the carrier Intrepid. Her ship had been modified with the most ambitious integration of alien technologies that human engineers had ever attempted. Zephyrian energy systems, powered hive bioweapons, while Nexari crystal arrays focused the combined output into a weapon that no single species could have imagined. Approaching the command vessel, Sandra reported as her ship slipped through the chaotic swarm formations. The corrupted bioships are providing cover just as planned. The converted swarm vessels that Linda Adams' teams had reprogrammed were broadcasting false identification signals that confused the defensive formations. Bioships that should have been protecting their command node instead moved aside to let human vessels pass, believing them to be friendly reinforcements. Dr. Helen Brooks' voice came through the comm system from Earth with urgent intelligence. The command vessel's bio-neural network is operating at 97% capacity, trying to process all the contradictory information. One more major shock should cause complete systemic failure. Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as his carefully orchestrated plan reached its climax. Sandra, you are authorized to use the resonance weapon. Hit them with everything we've got. The Intrepid's hybrid weapon system charged with power drawn from 3 different alien technologies. The energy buildup was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen because it had never occurred to any species to combine their most advanced systems with their competitors' technology. Admiral Krextal's 4 eyes widened as he watched the human weapon charging. That energy signature is impossible. You cannot mix Zephyrian plasma with Nexari crystals and hive biosystems. Jake Morrison's voice was calm with the confidence of someone whose desperate plan was finally working. Admiral, you're thinking like a civilized species again. Humans don't worry about what's supposed to be impossible. The resonance weapon fired with a sound that penetrated through the vacuum of space and into the bio-neural networks of every swarm vessel within 1,000 miles. The frequency was precisely calibrated to match the swarm's collective consciousness wavelength, but instead of carrying information, it carried pure chaos. The effect was immediate and total. The command vessel's bio-neural network overloaded as it tried to process signals that made no logical sense. Feedback loops cascaded through the entire swarm collective as the poison information spread from ship to ship at the speed of thought. Captain Terry Johnson watched his instruments as swarm bioships began losing coordination across the entire battlefield. Their network is collapsing. They're reverting to individual behavior patterns. Queen Zaraneth's voice clicked with amazement over the comm channel. The collective intelligence is fragmenting. They are becoming separate creatures instead of a unified force. Without their collective consciousness to guide them, the swarm bioships became confused and terrified animals, floating in the darkness of space. They had never existed as individuals, and had no instincts for independent survival. Many simply shut down their biological functions and died from the shock of being alone. The massive command vessel shuddered as its central nervous system collapsed under the psychological assault. Bio-neural pathways that had coordinated millions of ships for thousands of years suddenly went silent. The creature that had been the swarm's brain died not from physical damage but from forced isolation. Jake Morrison allowed himself a moment of satisfaction as he watched the readings from the command vessel fade to nothing. All ships, confirm target destruction. The swarm's central intelligence is terminated. Lieutenant Rick Stone's voice came through clearly from his position, monitoring swarm communications. Sir, we're detecting massive bioship casualties across the entire fleet. They're dying from neural shock as fast as they can process what happened to them. The alien commanders watched in stunned silence as the mighty void swarm that had destroyed their fleets simply collapsed from psychological trauma. Ships that had adapted to every weapon and tactic in the galaxy were helpless against an attack. On their fundamental nature as a collective intelligence. Captain Alex Hunt reported the final phase of human tactics as his crews began systematic cleanup operations. We're broadcasting termination signals to any surviving bioships. The corrupted vessels are helping to spread the shutdown commands through what's left of their network. Admiral Krextall's voice trembled as he spoke directly to Jake Morrison. "Human Commander, what you have accomplished should have been impossible. How did 12 primitive ships destroy an enemy that defeated our combined fleets?" Jake Morrison turned to face the alien commanders who had gathered in his asteroid command center. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that the swarm made. You assumed that advanced technology and superior numbers would always win." The Nexari delegate's crystalline form pulsed with confused harmonics. "But your weapons were primitive modifications of our own systems. How could inferior technology succeed where our perfected versions failed?" Jake's smile was patient as he explained the lesson that had cost thousands of alien lives to learn. "Because you tried to fight the swarm using your strengths. We fought, them using their weaknesses." Dr. Helen Brooks appeared on the main screen with her final analysis of the battle. The swarm's collective intelligence was their greatest asset, but it was also their critical vulnerability. Once we figured out how to poison their information network, they became helpless. Queen Zaraneth clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "You deliberately studied our failures to design better tactics. While we focused on our own capabilities, you focused on the enemy's limitations." Captain Diana Ross transmitted the final casualty reports as human ships completed their sweep of the battlefield. "All remaining swarm vessels are confirmed destroyed or incapacitated. No bioships are showing signs of active neural networks." Jake Morrison received confirmation that the threat was ended, but he knew the real victory was just beginning. The alien commanders were looking at him with a mixture of respect and fear that would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. Admiral Krextall was the first to formally acknowledge what had happened. "Commander Morrison, on behalf of the Zephyrian Empire, I offer our unconditional apology for underestimating human capabilities and our formal request for military alliance." Queen Zaraneth's clicking voice carried genuine humility. "The Hive recognizes human tactical superiority and requests training in your psychological warfare methods." The Nexari delegate sang harmonics of deep respect. "The Crystal Collective acknowledges that humans have achieved integration of technologies that we believed impossible." Jake Morrison accepted their requests with the same quiet dignity he had shown throughout the crisis. "I appreciate your offers, but remember that this victory came from cooperation, not dominance. Humans succeeded because we learned from all of your civilizations." Amy Carter looked up from her station with curious eyes. "Sir, what happens now?" Jake Morrison surveyed the tactical display showing the debris field that had once been the most dangerous threat in galactic history. "Now, Lieutenant, we rebuild, but this time we do it together, and we do it better." The alien commanders nodded in agreement, finally understanding that the quiet human observer who had sat in the corner taking notes had been the most dangerous strategist in the room all along. The galaxy would never make the mistake of overlooking human capabilities again.